After finding fly larvae in my bathtub drain, as seen in my previous video, I wondered what was in my kitchen drain. My kitchen plumbing is a crude arrangement of plastic pipes. I decided to look into this black section. I was expecting to find a thin layer of black algae, but instead I found a thick layer of a jelly-like material. Although there were some firm, dark areas that looked like clumps of mold or bacteria, some of it was light brown in color and had the consistency and appearance of refrigerated gravy. I didn't see any creatures living in it, but occasionally the light would reflect in a way that it appeared that something was in there. So I spread a bit of the material out on a piece of aluminum, and then it became obvious that there were worms in it. Here is a smaller bit of the material on a piece of clear plastic. This black cylinder is a 0.5 millimeter diameter pencil lead to give you an idea of the size of the worm. The longest ones were about 0.5 millimeter long. The worms are difficult to see because they are almost transparent. When the light is coming from underneath them, as it is right now, you can see completely through them. Now the light is coming from the side. Here is a small piece of that goop with the light coming from above. Now the light is shining from underneath. The worms don't appear to have any hairs, legs, eyes, or other features. There are 4 worms in this tiny piece of drain goop, and that means there must be thousands of them in my drain, or millions. Some of them have a lump around their body, similar to the lump around an earthworm, but I don't know if all of the lumps are natural or if I damaged some of them when I spread the material out. Everywhere I looked in this drain goop, I found lots of these worms. I have no idea what they develop into or how they got into my kitchen sink. I searched through that goop to see if there was any other type of creatures, and eventually I found this. I carefully picked it up with a piece of a feather and rinsed it off. It reminds me of lice. I don't know if it eats the drain goop or if it eats the worms. None of them seemed interested in eating. I carefully picked it up and laid it on a ruler. Each of the divisions is 1 millimeter, so this creature is about 1/3 of a millimeter long. As with the worms, these creatures are so transparent that they become whatever color the background is. When I put it on this piece of wet green paper, it looked green. Meanwhile, as I am playing with these creatures, the goop from the drain is drying up, which causes it to become darker in color, and it also caused the worms and lice to climb out of it and wander around, apparently looking for wet areas. I've seen these worms, or something very similar to them, in wet dirt and in dead leaves outside of my house, so apparently they're living all around me, not just inside my kitchen drain. I suppose that means that these lice creatures are also all over the place outside. I suppose when children are playing in the mud and the dead leaves, they are coming into contact with these and other tiny creatures. Some people might become paranoid of these creatures, But there are tiny creatures everywhere, inside and outside of your house. Not very many of them are truly a threat to you. And with a powerful microscope, you'll find creatures are living inside your mouth, on your skin, and inside your intestines. After finding all of these creatures living in the kitchen drain, I became curious as to what was living in my shower drain. So I pulled the top off of it and took a sample of what was inside. There wasn't much material along the walls of the shower drain, but there were a few clumps of hairs. However, I didn't find anything living in those clumps of hair. I suppose there were lots of microscopic creatures, but all I could see were hairs and clothing fibers. When I had put a metal snake down the drain to break the clog, the tip of the snake had a clump of hairs clinging to it. So I rinsed it off and took a close look at it. It was a tangle of hairs and clothing fibers, all of which were growing crystals. It looks like what happens when you put a string into sugar water and the sugar crystallizes onto the string. However, these crystals are not water soluble. My water softener broke many years ago, and I never bothered to fix it, so maybe that has been helping the crystals to grow. These crystals can explain why water hasn't been draining very well during the past few years. How long does it take to grow crystals like this? Is this months or years or decades? I assume they are some type of calcium crystal. I pushed this large one into a droplet of phosphoric acid. It immediately began dissolving. This is the acid that is used to clean cement off of tile and mineral deposits off of sinks. Businesses also put phosphoric acid into sodas, such as Coca-Cola, in order to stimulate our tongue. The businesses claim that the quantity is too small to cause trouble. But can we trust the research of people whose primary concern is sales rather than human health? We also ought to wonder what effect citric acid, vinegar, and other acids have on our teeth. If phosphoric acid is safe, why not use it in salad dressings and pickles instead of vinegar?